Hello and welcome to double distribution and factoring. So we need to know these things very well before we begin solving quadratics. So when you have two factors to put into standard form as one polynomial, the process is double distribution. You may have heard FOIL in the past, but we really want to keep it double distribution from now on because that's what you're actually doing. You're distributing the first and the second term in the factor. So that's how you put it into one polynomial. If you want to get it out of a polynomial and write it as a product of factors, that is called factoring. So let's make sure we know how to do these. If you know how to do them, just try them out and make sure you get them right. Otherwise, pay very close attention because this is going to be material that we use throughout the rest of the semester. So whenever you're distributing, you need to make sure that you distribute to both, as in example 1, the x and the negative 2. So we have x times x, which will give us x squared. We have x times negative 7, which is negative 7x. Now let's factor the negative 2. So we have negative 2 times x. And I like to line everything up when it gets to more complicated polynomials or what have you. Whenever you line them up with the same terms underneath, you can add down. So I'm going to have the negative 2 times x right underneath the negative 7x, and you don't have to do that. And then the negative 2 times negative 7, well, that's positive 14. We draw a line and we combine. So our final answer is x squared. Negative 7x minus 2x is negative 9x. And 14 is just plus 14. Alright, and that's our answer. Let's do it again. Now we have a 2 out front, but that doesn't change the process. We still have 2x times x, which is just 2x squared. We have 2x times negative 1, so we have negative 2x. We have negative 3 times x, which is negative 3x. And we have negative 3 times negative 1, which is positive 3. Draw a line, combine your like terms down. So we only have 2x squareds. We have negative 2 minus 3x, so we have negative 5x. And then we only have a plus 3. And there we go. One more. Please make sure you know that x plus 2 squared is written x plus 2 times x plus 2 if you're going to double distribute out. You cannot just square both terms. That doesn't work. That's not how it works. Please don't do that. You have to write it twice. So we have x times x, which is x squared again. We have x times that 2, so we have 2x. Then the 2, distribute that, so we have 2 times x, which is also 2x. And then we have 2 times 2, which is 4. Combine your like terms, and we end up with x squared plus 4x plus 4. So that's a refresher on how to double distribute. Now let's go into factoring, because once you do it one way, you have to do it the other way, backwards. So there's two methods for doing this that we're going to show you: the guess and check, and then the cross method. And you can really use both anytime. There's not a restriction saying you have to do it this time, this way, or that time, that way. What you do want to do is play your strengths. If you can guess and check all the time, you can do that. But if you aren't as good at it, I would suggest using the cross method most of the time because that works every time. So to guess and check, basically whenever you factor, your factors should multiply to a times c and then add to b. So remember our form is ax squared plus bx plus c. So we have a times c. So we have a 1, remember that's an imaginary 1, times negative 20. Well, 1 times negative 20 is just negative 20. So let's find factors of negative 20. And it needs to add to the middle term, add to b. And that is also a negative 1. So we're going to go through the factors of negative 20 and see what adds to 1. Remember that a negative and a positive make it negative, so we actually need one side to be negatives and one side to be positives. So we always have 1, and 1 times 20 is 20. Well, that doesn't add to negative 1. Let's try negative 2. So negative 2 times 10 is negative 20. That doesn't add to negative 1. 3, not divisible by negative 4. Well, that's 5 minus 4. That is not negative 1. So let's try negative 5. Well, negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1, so this is the one we're using. Okay, it took us a little time to get there, but that's okay. So our factors are x, we always have x's, and then the negative 5 goes into 1, and the positive 4 goes into the other, and because it's positive, it's a plus. Alright, that's it. Let's try that again. So we have a times c, so the 1 times 12 is 12. So we're looking for factors of 12 that add up to negative 7. So let's go through it. Well, factors of positive 12 that add up to negative 7. And the only way to get a negative is to have a negative and a negative. So these both need to be negatives, every single one of them. So we have 1 and 12. Well, that's negative 13, that doesn't work. Negative 2 and negative 6, that's negative 8, also doesn't work. Let's keep going, negative 3 and negative 4. Well, that's negative 7. So our factors are going to be the x's. We have a negative 3 that goes here, so minus 3. And a negative 4 goes here, so minus 4. And those are your factors. So if you have something simple like that, yes, you can always use guess and check. And guess and check always works if you know how to do it. And if you're good at guessing. Otherwise, let's go ahead and learn the cross method. So here are your steps, and I'm going to go through the one on the bottom, example 6, as I read the steps. First, multiply a and c to find the top blank. Now, whenever you get a problem, you're going to put an x, because it's a cross method, and let's multiply a and c. Well, a is now 3, which is why I'd like to use this method for this type of problem, because it's a little bit more complicated. So 3 times negative 24 is negative 72. And that is the top blank right there. Step 2, put the middle term in the bottom blank. So the middle term is a 6, so let's put a 6 here. Find factors of the top number that multiply to the bottom number. Okay, we need to change that. Find factors of the top number that add. Change this to add to the bottom number. So, factors of negative 72 that add to 6. Well, this is going to be a list, right? We have negative 1 and 72. That does not add to 6. Negative 2 and 31. Also does not add to 6. Negative 3 and 24. And I have done this prior to now, so that's how I'm going quickly. But you would just go down the line and go until you reach the one that adds to 6. And 12 minus 6 is 6. So we're going to put a negative 6x first, and then a 12x at these corners. So you're going to write the factors that work in the bottom corners. That's what that says. Now step 4 says to write the 4 corners in order around the box, and in order is this way. Okay, so going around. So we have 3x squared minus 6x plus 12x plus 24. And you write the sign that goes with it. If there's not a sign, you just assume it's positive. Step 5, group the first 2 and the last 2 terms together. And then find the greatest common factor to pull out of your groups. So when it says greatest common factor, it's what's common in both of them. Well, we have a 3x squared minus 6x. Well, 3 and 6 both have a 3, so we can take that out. And x squared and x both have an x, so we can take that out as well. You can always take out multiple things at the same time as long as you know that they work. So we are left with, well, what times 3x is 3x squared? Well, x times x is x squared, so that's all that's left over. Then what times 3x equals negative 6x? Well, that's negative 2. Because if you were to distribute that 3x, you would end up with what is in the parentheses. So 3x times negative 2 is negative 6x, so we're good. That's all you can take. Now the second 2 terms, or the last 2 terms, both have a 12, or one has a 12 and one has a negative 24. So 12 and 24 are both divisible by 12, so we're going to take out a 12. And we're left with, if you take a 12 out of 12x, you're left with x. If you take a 12 out of 24, you are left with, oh wait, aha. You messed up. This right here is a negative 24, and it's negative because if you look at the problem, that is negative. Okay, very important. So we're left with a negative 2. Okay, so this is what you want. You want these two terms to be the same. Okay, that means that that is one of your factors. So one of our factors is x minus 2. One of them. The other one is what's on the outside. So we have a 3x plus a 12. So our other factor is 3x plus 12. Okay, well now we should be done. We wrote our new factors. That was step 7. But in one of them we have a GCF that we can take out. In this blue one we can take out a 3. So let's take out the 3. There's a 3 in here and a 3 in 12. So we're going to have the 3 out front. We still have the x minus 2. And then if you take a 3 out of 3x, you're left with x. If you take a 3 out of 12, you are left with 4. So that is your factored form. Let's see that again. So we start by multiplying a and c. We put it here. That is 36. Then you put the negative 12 down here. Factors of 36 that add to 12. Negative 12. Well, that means that we're going to have two negatives. So we have negative 1, negative 36, not negative 12. Negative 2, negative 18, not negative 12. Negative 3, negative 12, still not. Let's keep going. 4 and 9, that's not 12. And negative 6 and negative 6, that is 12. So we're going to put the negative 6x here and a negative 6x here. Then we write our terms around this way. So we have 3x squared minus 6x plus 12. You group the first two and the last two, and then you take stuff out. What can we take out of 3x squared and a 6x? You can take out a 3x. Okay, because 3 goes into 3 and 6, and x goes into x squared and x. So let's take out a 3x. If we take a 3x out of 3x squared, we're only left with x. And if we take a 3x out of a 6x, we're left with 2. Okay, so what can we take out of the second two terms? Well, there's a negative 6x and a positive 12. They each have a negative 6 in them. And you always take out a negative if it's right here. Okay, if you have a negative right here, you always take it out. If you were to have a negative out front in the first term, you would always take it out. Just because we don't want to leave negatives inside, that's going to automatically make it wrong. So let's take out a negative 6, which means that we're left with, if we take a negative 6 out of negative 6x, we're left with x. And if you take a negative 6 out of 12, you're left with negative 2. Well, again, that's what we want. This, because they're the same, that makes one of our terms. And then the negative 6 and the 3x, that's our other term. So we have 3x minus 6, and we have x minus 2. Well, once again, ironically, not intentionally, right? We have a 3 in both the first and the second term here. So we're going to take it out. So we're going to take out the 3 so that we are left with x minus 2 and x minus 2. Look at that. Alright, last example. Here we go. Almost done. We have 49 times x, 1x. So 49 times 1, well that's just 49. We take this term and we put it here. Factors of 49 that add to 14. Well, there aren't very many factors of 49. There's 1 and 49. And there's 7 and 7. And 7 and 7 make 14. So we have 7x and 7x. We write down our factors in order. So we have x squared plus 7x plus 7x plus 49. Group the first two and the last two. From x squared plus 7x, the only thing we can take out is an x, because that's all they have in common, and we're left with x plus 7. For the second two, we cannot take out an x because there's not an x with the 49, but there is a 7 in both. So let's take out a plus 7, and we get x plus 7. Now remember, since we have factors that are the same, we have the x plus 7 and the x plus 7, that is one of our terms. The other factor is going to consist of what is out front, the x plus 7. And they're the same, but that doesn't make it wrong. Alright, so here is our final answer. So that is how you factor. If you need more practice, or if you would like to watch another video, there are lots of more videos online. So go watch one if this didn't work for you. Have a nice day.